Lost was a TV phenomenon that ran from 2004 to 2010. It was a show that took over the lives of the people who watched it, and it became so part of the popular culture of the time that it practically was the popular culture of the time. You'll hear people mention it in the same breath as classic TV shows such as Star Trek and The Twilight Zone, or cult favourites such as Buffy the Vampire Slayer and The X-Files. Lost was the must-see TV series of its era, the peak of appointment viewing, possibly even the key originator of the water cooler conversation at work. And if you want to know why, then you've come to the right place. Here's the rundown on what it's about and why you should watch it. A plane flying from Sydney, Australia to Los Angeles, California, crashes on a mysterious island after getting caught in severe turbulence. There is a group of people who miraculously survive the impact, but now find themselves trapped in a hostile environment. They are total strangers to one another, and each character has a rich and complicated backstory that is revealed over time through flashbacks. Conflicts between the passengers start to intensify as they get to know one another's personalities. While some are simply normal people thrown into extraordinary circumstances, others have dark and tragic backstories and do not play well with others. The weird thing is, some of these strangers have crossed paths before, even though they don't know it. They are all connected somehow. Together, they must try to find a way to survive and live on this island whilst awaiting a rescue that might never come. However, this is no ordinary island. It has its own rich and complicated history and has been visited by prior cultures and people from across the centuries. The survivors find themselves discovering this history as they start to explore the island and its unusual properties. As they peel back the mysteries surrounding this place, they come to discover that they may not be the only people living there. More crucially, they must wrestle with the notion that each one of them has been brought to this island's shores for a reason. What begins as a serialised survival drama series very quickly evolves into something else altogether. The baffling mysteries that our survivors encounter make the audience ask questions beyond simply who these people are. You begin to ask what this island is, and whether or not there is a grand plan for the people that have crashed on it.
Do you really think all this is an accident? That we, a group of strangers, survived? Many of us with just superficial injuries? You think we crashed on this place by coincidence? Especially this place? We were brought here for a purpose, for a reason, all of us. Each one of us was brought here for a reason.
At its core, Lost is a genre show that incorporates elements of action-adventure storytelling with both science fiction and supernatural elements. Some people will get swept up in the mysteries and the plot twists, of which there are many. Lost defines cliffhanger television, and barely an episode goes by without a new what the hell moment or unexpected turn in the story. But for those who are more interested in the character journeys rather than asking questions, there is plenty of character-based drama and conflict to chew on. Many romances ignite on Lost between the various characters, some of which soar, and others that are simply not meant to last. But it's not all doom and gloom. For every rise in the dramatic stakes of the story and increase in the strange occurrences, there is well-timed comedy to bring things back down to earth, to remind us that the characters are as equally baffled and bemused by events as we are.
Someone shooting.
The show has several comic relief characters that are there to ask the meta questions that we are asking.
What?
Across 6 seasons, Lost unravels a dense, complicated, and bracingly original mythology that explores themes of destiny versus free will, science versus faith, love and sacrifice, forgiveness and redemption. It asks if redemption is even possible, and if those who have been wronged can ever truly forgive. Can we ever truly be free from the sins of the past? The show explores mythological notions of good and evil, and how everyone is capable of both. So-called good characters can commit unspeakable acts of violence, while so-called bad characters can show remorse and contrition, and even sacrifice themselves for the greater good. Lost is all about the grayscale that exists within human beings, how people who are lost in their lives can begin anew, and try to liberate themselves from the sins of the past. The island is about second chances and renewal. The show delves into spiritual and existential themes as well, and raises profound questions about what it means to live, to love, to fight, to sacrifice, and to die. But for those simply looking for a cracking adventure full of intrigue, mystery, and twists and turns, and great characters, then Lost is a journey absolutely worth taking. Hold up a second. Isn't Lost a show that polarised its fan base with a terrible ending that no one liked? Well, don't believe everything you read or hear. If you've ever come across an article online trashing the show, or heard a friend or colleague casually dismissing it, chances are they were once fans of the show themselves, and they simply didn't like where it went or how it ended. The people who rag on Lost presumably used to love the show at some point during its original run, hence why they are so passionate in their criticisms of it now. Some felt betrayed by the direction the series ultimately took. And hey, they have every right to feel that way. Lost is a show that takes a long time to set up its mythology and its characters, and for those of us who watched episodes live as they aired from week to week, there was an abundance of time to theory craft and discuss what was going on, to analyse every detail. But the truth was, the show was never going to be able to fulfil everyone's hopes and expectations. And in this age of streaming, new viewers can simply binge watch the entire show and enjoy its trajectory without second guessing the outcomes too much. You can view the series at your own pace and manage your expectations accordingly. Yes, a portion of the fan base were let down and disappointed by the eventual reveals and outcomes of the story. However, these former fans and viewers remain a minority. A vocal minority, but a minority nonetheless. If you look at the audience and critical scores for the supposedly polarising series finale, it's hitting 8.3 on IMDb. Now compare that to the woefully received finale for Game of Thrones. A majority of people who watched Lost from the beginning right through to the end either loved or appreciated the final episode. But you just don't hear that side of the narrative because the negativity of those who hated the ending so much is amplified, particularly on social media. They seem like the majority. The reality is, Lost continues to have an active fan base around it. The show began almost 20 years ago now, and ended more than 10 years ago, but there are still communities that actively discuss the series on places like Reddit and Facebook, and YouTube has seen a surge in newcomer audiences making reactor videos, and the reactions are by and large very positive. In this day and age, it's very easy for the negative opinions to become the dominant narrative within the culture. But the naysayers seldom ever talk about how Lost changed the TV landscape forever. It emerged at a time when the early membrane of social media and the internet was still growing, and it captured lightning in a bottle by giving us something to talk about online in a way we never had before. In many ways, Lost invented the idea of event television. It was a big-budget show that made every episode look like movie quality. This is now the standard for TV shows, but back then, it was so rare to see a level of cinematic quality in a network television show. Just look at what else was around at the time to see how different Lost really was. There was a huge cast of multicultural actors from different backgrounds representing different parts of the world, featuring episodes that would portray other languages and cultures and countries. This was practically unheard of in 2004. The show was ahead of its time. There were many aspects to the production that bucked the conventions of your average TV show. The production filmed on location in Hawaii, requiring its cast and crews to move out there to live and to work. The beaches and jungles and valleys are real locations, adding a layer of aesthetic authenticity that elevates the show above its set-bound brothers and sisters. While the production still creates sets specific to its mythology, it almost always incorporated these sets into the stunning backdrops of Hawaii. In a world where so many executives and producers try to cut corners and bring costs down, Lost pushed the boat out even further and somehow got the money to secure composer Michael Giacchino and a complete orchestra to score the soundtrack for every single episode. TV shows tend to settle for synthesized scores, which are composed and performed by someone sat at a computer. But Lost gets to utilise the full sounds of a live orchestra, and this created a whole new character on the show. The musical melodies and themes of Lost are some of the best and most unique musical compositions ever written for the TV medium, evoking so much of the heart and soul and suspense and mystery of the series. Giacchino's score has become indelible. You'll be quietly humming his beautiful themes for the rest of your life. I can guarantee you that. The creative team, led by Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse, made themselves accessible to the audience in a way that had never truly happened before. They hosted Comic-Con panels, and they even launched a podcast, long before anyone really knew what a podcast was. The foundations that popular internet-savvy showrunners had built in the 1990s were now being rebuilt for the 21st century, and the way the Lost creators engaged and interacted with their audience would soon become the norm for every successful TV show going forward. They oversaw and outsourced a number of additional cross-platform materials that tied into the show, such as interactive games, international clue hunts, fake documentaries that expanded upon the mythology, and online mobisodes that filled in the missing pieces of the story. Without a doubt, Lost created a new era in multi-platform synergy in which you could explore a whole world connected to the main narrative. You didn't need to read and see all of these supplementary materials to enjoy or understand the show, but they were exciting Easter eggs, and they were diversions for a fan base that wanted to live and breathe Lost in between episodes. Even within the show itself, there are countless Easter eggs and subtle clues as to the wider mythology. The level of detail invested in the narrative is still unparalleled to this very day. So many modern shows owe something to the legacy of Lost. The show redefined television in a time when everyone else was mostly playing it safe. Chances are, a serialised genre show that you watch and love today exists almost exclusively because Lost made it possible for complicated, long-form genre stories to be told in the TV format, whether it be Stranger Things, or Westworld, or Game of Thrones. Lost did it first and best. Check out the TV show that changed the game before we even knew that there was a game to be changed. And once you finish the series, make sure to come back to this channel to check out the rest of my content as I explore and explain every facet of this iconic TV series. Thank you for watching. I really hope that you decide to come and get lost with the rest of us.